Welcome to BizTV's Beyond the Brand. I'm Kelli Phillips. Our guest today is Ravi Rajani, an international keynote speaker, communication strategist, and author. Ravi has spent years helping leaders and sales professionals build deep, lasting trust. Stay with us. We'll be right back with more of BizTV's Beyond the Brand. As an international keynote speaker, communication strategist, and author of the powerful book, Relationship Currency, our first guest has spent years helping leaders and sales professionals ditch transactional behavior and build deep, lasting trust. He's here to share how the unique lessons he learned transitioning from the Citibank trading floor to the global stage taught him that your relationships are your most valuable asset. Please welcome Ravi Rajani. And Ravi, let's get you to start with giving us a little bit of your background and how you got to where you are today.
Well, firstly, thank you for the intro, my friend. I'm going to have to pay you to come and intro me on any panel or stage that I go on. So let me take you back for a second. And if I had to pin everything I'm doing on one person, it would be my mum. It would be my mum. And she Miyagi'd me when I was growing up. Karate Kid fans, if you know, you know, because when I was 9 years old, she kindly shoved me into the same dance school as my little sister. And Kelly, I was so mad on the surface because I was the only boy in my entire school in a dance class, and I was embarrassed. I didn't want my entire secret to get out, but it did. A story for another day. But internally, I was like, wow, this is cool. I kind of like this. Luckily, after a James Bond themed showcase a year and a bit later, my mum let me quit. And I stumbled into theatre as a teen. I didn't know it, but my best friend's dad was a playwright by night. So one play led to another, which led to meteor roles. And eventually I had the opportunity to perform at the National Youth Theatre over here in London. So then growing up, people would always say, hey, Rav, you're going to take this whole speaking, presenting or acting thing seriously because we think you're pretty good at it. And Kelly, have you ever seen the movie Wall Street?
Yes.
Okay, so Gordon Gekko, greed is good, right? So
yes.
I had Gordon Gekko on one shoulder saying, follow the money. Follow your ego and follow the money. And I didn't listen to the other voice on my shoulder. And that's what I did. I did my degree at Cass Business School in London, did my master's degree, and I ended up on the trading floor at Citibank. And as time went on, I thought, wow, I've landed what I thought success looked like. On paper, I had everything I thought I'd wanted in that season of my life, but something felt off. But I didn't know what it was. So in 2016, August 2016, I pressed eject and I said, hey, I'm going to resign and I'm going to find my path. And the next 4 years was what I call the great experiment, where I tried so many different things to find my lane, whether it was sales leadership in early stage tech, whether it was TV presenting, fractional consulting, coaching, you name it. And then in September 2020, I said, you know what? I'm all in. But more specifically, I'm all in on the very thing that has secretly been my edge throughout my life, which has been effective communication. So, hey, I blame it on my mum.
Everything goes back to the mom, and I'm sure that she will willingly take responsibility for that. Now, what was that turning point that you figured out this is what I meant to do?
I would say it wasn't necessarily one big moment, and that may not be what your listeners or viewers want to hear. It wasn't this big aha moment. It was a series of moments which happened over time. But for me, it was really, I remember the day that it actually happened, and it was the summer of 2020. And I remember saying to myself, I could continue going down the path I am. And at that time, I was a sales leader for a tech startup in London. I could continue this, or I could go all in on me. And that's what I decided to do, because the cost of staying where I was higher than making change, the cost of making change. So I said, you know what, let's do this. It's now or never. It's how I felt. So that, I would say, was the big catalyst.
A lot of people would say, but why didn't you follow the money? I mean, you did for a while, but are you benefiting more now than when you were on that trading room floor?
So I left the trading floor in 2016, and it's crazy. That was like coming up to 10 years. That feels like a different version of me who, did the best he could with the consciousness that he had at the time. And at that time, I valued very different things. Now I'm married with 2 children. I run my own business. I have very different values, priorities, and what I care about in this season of my life. For me, it was figuring out the following. How could I own my zone of genius, my edge, my gift, which I believe we all have, but also find a way to make it a living? And I was able to do that. And I feel very fortunate. And the fact that I've even had the opportunity to write a book over the past year and release it just feels incredible, which feels like one of these out of body surreal moments where you get the book in your hand and you realize that everything was happening for you, not to you. So whether it was dance school, whether it was theater, whether it was being on the trading floor at Citibank, or the portfolio career that I had, every single thing was secretly preparing me for the chapter of the story my story that I'm in today.
It's one of those things where now you can sit back and you can look back at your life and connect all of those dots where when you were in the middle of it, you were going, why is this happening? You mentioned your book. Let's talk about your book. Tell us about it and how it came to be.
Yeah, so the book is called Relationship Currency, 5 Communication Habits for Limitless Influence and Business Success. And really the idea behind the book is, in a world increasingly shaped by AI, we are valuing automation without connection, growth without introspection, and also conversations that lack intention. And what that breeds is transactional behavior. The result is short-term behavior that kills long-term reputation, in my opinion, for leaders, teams, and entrepreneurs. So what I believe the world is craving right now is human connection grounded in one thing: trust. And the question is how can you communicate for trust? And that's the question that this book answers, I would say.
So how can you build trust, Ravi?
Yeah, I like it. So for me, how I define, or rather how I talk about establishing trust in a conversation, is through the 3 C's, Kelly, the 3 C's: connection, character, and competence. So connection is the emotional glue that forges a bond between 2 human beings. That can be done, for example, through sharing a personal story or asking deep questions that allow somebody to share their story with you. We can go into that in a second. Then we've got character, which is the invisible values that travel with your spoken word, your nonverbal communication, and your energy. And then we've got competence, which is your perceived credibility stock. Are you able to signal expertise without shoving it down somebody's throat? And when you have all of those 3 balls in the air, you're able to establish trust. And the 5 habits, which I talk about in my book, help you earn those 3 C's in a way that's authentic and organic. And I tell you what, Kelly, the one habit which has deeply connected with people the most I've heard so far is habit 2, asking conscious questions, as well as the first one, actually, habit 1, transform your internal story, transform your story. I see those 2 are where we've had the most incredible feedback from. So that's what I'm excited about right now.
Okay, you've got 3 others. We want to talk about those, but we need to take a quick break. So if you don't mind, stay right there and we'll be back to talk more with Ravi Rajani. And And we're back with Ravi Rajani, author and speaker. And Ravi, we were talking about the 5 different habits that leaders need to have. You mentioned 2 of those, but can we talk about the other 3 and maybe recap 1 and 2 while we're here?
Yeah, let me recap it for you. So habit 1 is transform your story. Habit 2 is asking conscious questions. Habit 3 is unearth your charisma. Habit 4 is tell stories that inspire change. And number 5 is become the trusted guide. So I love them all, but tell me actually, Kelly, which one sang to you the most as I was talking through them?
Probably the charisma, in all honesty.
Really? Okay, let's go deep into that. So I'm curious to know. Let's flip the script. Let me ask you a question here. So how do you define charisma?
Charisma is that feeling of connection, of being excited, and sharing your story, I guess.
Love that. That's cool. Well, I'll tell you what, for me, growing up, I had charisma all wrong. I mean, my younger self did the best he could, but I used to think it was about accolades, awards, being in the spotlight, and also showcasing what one would label as extroverted character traits. But I was wrong. I can say that I was wrong. I was young, naive, but hey,
we've all been there.
Oh yeah, of course. And how I define charisma today is an innate superpower that every single one of us possesses, which allows us to make others feel significant in our presence. So the idea that I talk about in the book is whether you're a founder, sales professional, leader running a team, your job is to make people feel like they matter when they are around you. And we can talk about different ways to do that, but anything coming up for you there?
Can you give us an example of how you can make others feel like they are significant?
Yeah, 100%. So let's go to something really actionable that anybody could implement within the next 24 hours. So interestingly, research has shown that a genuine compliment, when received, actually lights up the same part of our brain that gets activated when we receive a financial reward. That's crazy, right? So one of the things that I talk about in the book is a simple framework, which I'll show you in a second, for giving genuine compliments without being contrived. Now, most people, they would give a compliment like the following. So let's say you, not you, Kelly, like the listener, have just heard Natalie at a conference, who's a big client of yours, give an incredible keynote. Now you walk up to Natalie all excited with the best intentions and you say, Natalie, great presentation. I loved it. Great presentation. Now on the surface, that's harmless. But for me, it lacks 3 things. It lacks authenticity, specificity, and impact, which segues into my ASI framework. So A means lead with a genuine and positive observation, authenticity. S means avoid being generic, specificity. I is about sharing the personal impact this moment had on you. Impact, authenticity, specificity, impact. So now let's walk through an example. So instead you could say, hey, Natalie, that was one of the most incredible speeches I've actually heard at this conference. In the first few minutes, when you shared that personal story about experiencing crippling imposter syndrome as a new CEO, I mean, I never knew that about you. And it was just incredibly vulnerable. And hey, you know what? That's actually inspired me to be more vulnerable and use more personal stories in my own speeches. So hey, thank you for that. Do you see the difference?
Complete difference.
Right? And when you do this right, with the right intention, it not only builds trust, but it helps somebody feel seen, heard, and understood. And I remember for me, back in the day, I used to have a mentor who would always acknowledge me for my gifts in public. And it was the most incredible thing because I wanted to run through a brick wall for this guy.
I understand that completely. Can you tell us, is your book geared for everyone, or is it somebody more direct? I mean, is it geared for just one type of individual, an entrepreneur, a CEO?
The intention behind it was to write it for three very specific avatars, if you wish. The leader, the salesperson or customer service professional, and the entrepreneur. But what I'm hearing, which is incredible, is that the learnings inside of the book are actually applicable for anybody, not just in business, but also in life.
How do you think this book can help just the everyday layperson?
For me, through my lens, habit number 2 is where we should go next, because it's applicable across the board. And habit 2, by the way, is all about asking conscious questions. And when I say conscious questions, by the way, I'm talking about questions that are grounded in positive intentionality. Now, one of the types of questions that I talk about in the book is asking empathetic questions. Now, I know empathy is a buzzword now in today's world, is it not? So here's my definition of asking an empathetic question. It's about asking a question which shows your conversation partner that you are interested in what they are emotionally invested in. So I'm going to say that again. Interested in what somebody is emotionally invested in. Now, one of the ways you can do that is through what I call my what, feel, who method. Let me give you an example. In today's world, we often start business meetings like, hey Kelli, how are you? Not bad, but arguably lazy. In the wrong context, it's lazy. It lacks intentionality. So what do we do instead? So I could say, hey Kelli, the last time we spoke, you mentioned that you were moving home, but you were feeling super stressed because your daughter was really unhappy about the change. How is she settled in? The what is moving home. The feel is the stress. The who is your daughter. I am showing you that I listened to our last conversation. I am showing you that I care about what you care about. And all of a sudden, you're exchanging a story with me in return. And the trust has increased because I've connected with you and I've also shown a character of integrity. And also, it grows the relationship. And as we both know, in business and in life, relationships are everything.
Relationships are everything. And I feel like we're losing that in this AI world. But what you are saying is bringing me so much hope that people actually listen and talk and communicate once again. Now, if you're meeting somebody for the first time, how would you establish a question to get that trust beginning to be built?
Yes, love that. And by the way, I realized, talk about listening, I didn't answer your question fully. So let me just take it back for a second. So that what, feel, who method can be applied at Christmas, around the dinner table, with your family, a friend, a family member, whoever it can be. So the what, feel, who method. So anyway, fast forward to what you just said there is, what's a way to establish rapport with somebody you've just met? Well, something I talk about is asking story-worthy questions, aka an open-ended question. Now, when done right, 2 things can happen. Number 1, somebody shares a story with you, brilliant. But the North Star of a story-worthy question is stopping somebody in their track, provoking thought and reflection, because it tells somebody a positive story about you and your character. It shows that you have a character of intention. So let me give you an example. If I met you, Kelli, I could say, hey, Kelli, tell me about the moment when you first realized you wanted to work on TV. And you could say, oh, Ravi, I remember. I was 13 years old and I switched on the TV and my mom was shouting, "Come for dinner, Kelly," but it didn't matter. I was locked in on this one TV host, boom. And all of a sudden you're sharing a story with me and the connection is being built. So open-ended questions is a beautiful way, story-worthy questions. It's a beautiful way to build rapport with somebody that you haven't had the chance to have the 50 questions or 50 meetings with. And one thing you should also think about, or what I would invite you to think about if you're listening to this or watching this right now, is do your research. LinkedIn, social media, do your research on the human being you're about to connect if you have the opportunity to do so. Because in today's world, the bar is so low. People often don't do that. They do not do the smallest things which make the biggest differences. Now, don't be weird. Don't go to Facebook and look at picture number 991 and say, "Hey, 10 years ago, I saw that you were on holiday in Mexico with your ex-wife." How? No, time out, okay?
Yeah, don't
I
go
didn't tell
there.
you to do that. That's on you, okay? So use it wisely, but do your research.
Now, Ravi, where can folks find your book? Where can they find more information about it?
Yes, so you can buy my book on Audible if that tickles your fancy. You can also buy it on Amazon or Barnes & Noble, anywhere you buy books. It's called Relationship Currency, 5 Communication Habits for Limitless Influence and Business Success.
Ravi, thanks so much for your time today. We really appreciate it. Thanks for watching BizTV's Beyond the Brand. Be sure to subscribe to the BizTV YouTube channel, where you'll find full episodes of this show, fresh BizTV content, and a few surprises each week to help you stay inspired.